Welcome and thanks for joining me on Dirty Fingers, Muddy Toes. My name's Julie and this is my little gardening blog on the web. I'm going to be sharing some tips and tricks and practices that I have learned over my 15 or so years of vegetable gardening, and hopefully you will share some of your tips and tricks and best practices for you in the comments as we go along, and we'll all become better gardeners together. Thanks for gardening with me. Make sure you hit that subscribe button so that you can keep up with all the cool things we're doing. Planting your own onions from seed is definitely the way to go. So for a long time, like a lot of people, I bought onion sets, which are little tiny bulbs that are onions that have grown to that size and then they've been kind of put into hibernation. When you buy them at the garden store, they're partway through their growing season. You plant them in the ground and they start back up again. And I never really had great luck with those, but I'd read a lot about starting onions from seed. You just have to start them so early. I was hesitant about that. A couple of years ago, I gave that a try and it made a world of difference, and it's super easy. So I'm gonna show you what I do to get my onions started here at the house, and hopefully encourage you to grow some of your own onions too. Onions are super easy to start from seed. I wanted to show you how tiny the little onion seeds are here. So if you can see those in my hand. And I'm gonna mass start mine. So rather than starting every seed in a little tray, I take something like this, which is a container that I saved from salad mix, and I kept its little lid so it makes its own great little greenhouse. And I just put a couple of inches of soil in here. They're not gonna grow very long in here, so I don't need it to be very deep. And I'm gonna make a couple of rows and put a lot of seeds in each row. Now, onion seeds have to get planted 1/4 of an inch deep. And I have, when I'm usually planting seeds, I use this little chopstick with measurements that I marked on it. I just saved it from a carry-out Oriental place, and it works great, and I use it to push my seeds down. But since I'm gonna do a whole row, and I'm just gonna sprinkle a whole bunch of seeds in at once, because later I'm going to prick those out and put them in their own individual little pots. I don't need to do that right now, and I don't need to take up space on my heat mat. So at the moment, we're just gonna take a marker like this, or you can use your finger, and we're gonna make a little indentation all the way down through here that's 1/4 inch deep, and we'll sprinkle a bunch of seeds into it. I learned that onions are really probably one of the most important things that I grow in the garden. I cook with them a lot and I use a lot of them, so every year I'm planting more onions than I did the year before. Now, I already started a little tray. This one is actually from someone's lunch meat container, I think, and I just kept its lid. I already did this one the other day, and I filled it with soil, and I put my marker in, so it's all ready to go. This one we're working on today, I already moistened the soil. It's easier to work with soil that's a little bit wet, and then if it's already wet, then I just press the damp soil over top of the seeds lightly. If I put it in dry potting mix and then I water it, it can really change the depth of the seeds. And seed planting depth turns out to be pretty important if you want your things to germinate. So if you look in here, I've already made the little lines, and I've got 2 other kinds of onions that I'm starting in this container because it's nice and large and I can do that. And I didn't want to get them mixed up because they're going to look exactly the same when they come up. And since I don't have individual rows of seed trays. So what I did was, I made several rows across here. I just used my finger to press down in there, and I put the marker at the back right here. And then this section over here is gonna be a different kind of onion. So rather than put the marker at the back and not knowing where the row stopped, I actually put it at sideways in here. So anything this direction or further is gonna be that kind of onion. And then I'm just gonna take the seed packet and open it up. So this one is Dakota Tears. And this is a really good yellow onion. It's a good storage onion. It grows really well. And I've already made my marker on here. And I'm just gonna tap seeds down into each one of those rows and then tap the soil over top of it very lightly. I'll probably use my little misting bottle to give it a little mist, and then I'll take it downstairs and put it on the heat mat. And this takes up a heck of a lot less space than if I had planted it out in the big trays with the peat pots. I'll move to that later, and by then it won't really need that heat mat anymore. To show you up close in some good lighting, this is really bright LED light, and you can barely see those little black seeds. in their rows. And that's what makes it great about mass planting is they don't have to be evenly spaced. So like if you look over here, there's a whole bunch of them together. That's going to be fine because they're going to be only an inch or two tall when I prick them out, and they won't have a bunch of roots to get all tangled together. We'll just gently take the little bit of soil out and pull them apart, and then we can plant them individually. So now I'm going to cover these up. Just take the soil on either side and give it a little pinch next to, right next to it. So you just go through, give it a little pinch like this, and cover them up. It's not too complicated. You can also take some dry potting soil and sprinkle it over the top to get them covered. And then just give it a little bit of water. If you don't give it too much, they won't settle too much. And then pat it down just a little bit, making sure that everything's got good contact. Your damp soil's got good contact with those. I'll give them a little spray, and they're all ready to go. Piece of cake. I did a very similar thing with the celery. I had in this whole tray one little row that was empty, and I didn't have anything that I needed to seed right now that was only going to take one row. So I didn't know what to do with this. And so I decided this was a good place to mass start the celery. Celery seeds are even tinier than the onion seeds, and they don't get buried at all. They get pressed into the very top of the damp soil. So this soil was already in here and damp, and I just marked, for two containers for the Chinese pink celery and 2 for the tall Utah celery, which actually came out amazingly good last year. I'm trying the Chinese pink celery again, even though I felt like it was a little bit stringy last year, but that could have been because I wasn't great at watering it. So you can't see them, but there's a whole bunch of tiny little seeds. Maybe you can see actually a couple of them in there, the little light brown ones. And I just dumped a bunch of seeds in there and gave them a little pat, right? So that they had good contact. You don't want them covered because they do need to have light to germinate. And then I made sure my bottle was on mist. I gave them a little water. Now, one of the things I could do is I could take some saran wrap and I could cover just this strip right here to help keep the moisture in. But since I'm gonna be in and out of the grow room every day, checking these and working with different seeds, I'll probably do all right with keeping them moist. If I'm failing at that, then I'll just throw some saran wrap over there and they'll stay plenty moist to germinate. Then when they get big enough, we'll prick those all out and put them in their own individual cell containers, just like these will be. And then we can keep them on a shelf under the grow lights until it's time to put them out. Hopefully that has made starting your celery seeds and your onion seeds at home much easier. If you hit the subscribe button, you'll definitely get notified when we upload new videos. We'll be doing a segment on pricking those little seedlings out and putting them in their own containers in a way that doesn't damage them, which is incredibly helpful and necessary if you want to get them started in time and keep them healthy until you get them out in your garden. So thanks for tuning in. I appreciate you gardening with me, and we'll see you next time.